The council chamber was enormous. Captain Jinwoo had been inside it before, but it never stopped making him feel small. Thousands of alien species filled the curved seats that rose like waves around the central floor. Some breathed methane, others existed as clouds of energy. A few were so large they appeared on holographic screens because their bodies could not fit through the doors. Jinwoo sat in the human section, which was still considered the junior area, even after 200 years. Humanity had only joined the Galactic Council in 2347, making them one of the members. Most species here had been traveling between stars for thousands of years before humans even invented the wheel. He adjusted his uniform and waited. Something important was happening today. The emergency session had been called by and that alone was unusual. The rarely asked for anything. The chamber lights dimmed. A figure moved to the center platform. She was tall and made entirely of what looked like living crystal. Light passed through her body and broke into rainbows. This was Ambassador of the Empire. Members of the council began. Her voice sounded like wind chimes. I come before you with a request that shames me to make. My people need help. The chamber fell silent. They were one of the oldest civilizations in the galaxy. They had been exploring space for over 50,000 years. They had never asked for help before. Touched a control panel. A hologram appeared above her head, showing a solar system. At its center was a star, but something was wrong with it. The star flickered and pulsed like a dying heartbeat. This is our home system, said. 5 years ago, our sun began to die, not in the normal way stars die. Something is wrong with it at a level we cannot understand. Our best scientists have studied it. We have asked the collective and the Commonwealth for their help. Everyone says the same thing. She paused. Jinwoo could hear the pain in her voice even though her face could not show expressions. They say nothing can be done. In 5 years, our sun will collapse into a black hole. 3 billion live in our home system. We cannot evacuate them all. Our people need specific atmospheric conditions to survive. Only 12 worlds in the galaxy have these conditions, and all of them are already home to other species. The chamber erupted with noise. Thousands of species began talking at once. Jinwoo heard several languages being translated through his earpiece. Impossible to evacuate 3 billion. A sun turning into a black hole, that violates all known physics. The cost would be astronomical. Perhaps a partial evacuation. Jinwoo sat very still. His mind was racing back through time, back 40 years to a moment he had only read about in history files. He had been a child then, living on Earth, but every human knew the story. The colony ship New Dawn had been carrying 50,000 humans to a new world. Something had gone wrong with their fusion reactor in deep space. The ship was dying. No human vessel could reach them in time. They had sent out a distress call, but they were far from any major shipping lanes. Everyone expected them to die. Then a ship appeared. It was not a human ship. It was an exploration vessel on a decade-long survey mission. The had detected the distress call and changed course immediately. It cost them months of travel and exhausted their emergency supplies, but they saved all 50,000 humans. The commander of that ship had been named. Jinwoo looked at Ambassador and wondered if they were related. The council was still arguing. Jinwoo heard a representative from the collective speaking. We sympathize with but we must be realistic. The resources needed to even attempt a solution would bankrupt multiple civilizations. And for what? Every expert agrees the problem cannot be solved. Others agreed. Jinwoo watched as species after species expressed sympathy but offered no real help. Some offered to take small numbers of refugees. Others suggested they accept their fate with dignity. Jinwoo felt something burning in his chest. It was anger, but also something else. Something that made him stand up before he realized what he was doing. Humanity will fix your sun. The chamber went silent. Then laughter began. It started small but grew louder. Jinwoo stood in the human section with thousands of alien eyes on him. Most were laughing. Some looked at him with pity. An ambassador from the Commonwealth spoke. Captain Jinwoo, we appreciate your enthusiasm, but humanity is still a young species. Your technology is centuries behind ours. If we cannot solve this problem, what makes you think you can? Jinwoo kept his voice steady. 40 years ago, a ship saved 50,000 human lives. They did not have to. They were in the middle of an important mission. They lost years of work and used up supplies they needed. But they saved our people anyway because it was the right thing to do. He looked directly at, humanity does not forget when someone helps us. We will find a way to save your people. That is my promise. More laughter filled the chamber. Jinwoo heard someone say, the humans will bankrupt themselves on an impossible dream. But was not laughing. She was looking at Jinwoo with an expression he could not read on her crystalline face. Then she bowed, which was a gesture of deep respect among. The council session ended soon after. As Jinwoo walked toward the exit, intercepted him in a side corridor where they could talk privately. Captain Jinwoo, she said quietly, the commander who saved your colony ship was my father. He died 3 years ago. Jinwoo felt a weight settle on his shoulders. I am sorry for your loss. He spoke of that rescue often, continued. He said humans were different from other species, more stubborn, more willing to try impossible things. She paused. Captain, I do not want your people to suffer for us. The council is right. This problem may have no solution. Jinwoo met her eyes. In the light, he could see tiny fractures in her crystalline body. She was older than she looked, and the stress was taking a toll on her. Ambassador, he said, your father gave 50,000 humans a future. We are going to give 3 billion their future, not because we calculated profit or cost, because that is what friends do. Stood silent for a long moment. Then she said something in the language which Jinwoo's translator converted. May your courage be stronger than physics itself. Jinwoo walked back to his ship. He knew what was coming. Earth would have to make a choice, and it would not be an easy one, but he also knew what the choice would be. Humanity never forgot a favor, and they were about to show the galaxy what that really meant. Admiral Sang-ho looked tired. He sat at the head of a long table in Geneva, surrounded by representatives from every nation on Earth. The room had been designed to impress visitors with its view of the mountains, but no one was looking at the view today. Let me make sure I understand this correctly, said Admiral Sang-ho. He looked at the report in front of him. Captain Jinwoo has promised the Galactic Council that humanity will save 3 billion aliens by fixing a star that is dying in a way that violates known physics. Yes, sir, Jinwoo said. He stood at attention even though no one had asked him to. And you made this promise without consulting Earth Command, the United Nations, or any government authority. Yes, sir. Admiral Sang-ho closed his eyes and rubbed his temples. Around the table, Jinwoo could see different reactions. Some people looked angry, others looked worried. A few were trying not to smile. Chief Engineer spoke up. She was a small woman with sharp eyes and graying hair. Admiral, I have reviewed the data they provided. Every major civilization has analyzed this problem. The collective has technology 500 years ahead of ours. They say it cannot be done. Thank you, Engineer, Sang-ho said. Does anyone have good news? Astrophysicist cleared his throat. He was young for his position, barely 30 years old. Sir, I might have something. It is not good news exactly, but it is interesting news. We will take what we can get, Sang-ho replied. Activated a hologram above the table. It showed the sun in detail. Look at the energy patterns. Every species has assumed this is a natural phenomenon, just a very strange one. But what if it is not natural at all? Explain, said Fleet Commander Bora. She was a veteran of the border wars and did not waste words. What if something is feeding on the star, said. What if some kind of technology is draining its energy? If we could find that technology and stop it, the star might stabilize on its own. The room was quiet as everyone considered this. Finally, a woman at the far end of the table spoke. She was Prime Representative, Earth's highest elected official. "Physicist," she said, "how certain are you about this theory?" "Not certain at all," admitted. "It is just a theory, but it makes more sense than a star randomly deciding to collapse into a black hole." Nodded slowly, she looked around the table at each person. "Let me ask a different question. How much would it cost to attempt this rescue?" Engineer pulled up financial projections. The numbers appeared in the air above the table, and several people gasped. "To build the equipment we would need, to mobilize our entire fleet, to support a 5-year operation in space." Paused. "It would cost 40% of Earth's total economic output every year for 5 years." "That would mean rationing," someone said. "Food shortages, economic depression. Our expansion to new colonies would stop completely." "And that is only if we succeed," another voice added. "If we fail, we will have bankrupted ourselves for nothing." Admiral Sang-ho looked at Jinwoo. "Captain, you started this. What do you have to say?" Jinwoo chose his words carefully. "Sir, 40 years ago, 50,000 humans were about to die in deep space. The saved them. Those 50,000 people had children. Those children had children. Today, there are over 2 million humans alive because of what they did. 2 million people who exist only because someone helped us when they did not have to." He paused. They did not ask if saving us was profitable. They did not calculate the cost. They just helped because it was right. I think we should do the same. "Noble words," said Admiral Sang-ho. "But we are talking about the economic future of every human alive today." Prime Representative stood up. She was an older woman who had led Earth through 2 wars and 3 economic crises. When she spoke, everyone listened. "40 years ago, I was a young mother living on Earth," she said. "I remember when news arrived that the new dawn had been saved. I remember the celebrations. I remember thinking that somewhere out there, aliens cared whether humans lived or died." She walked to the window and looked out at the mountains. "I also remember something my grandmother told me when I was a child. She lived through the climate wars. She saw humanity almost destroy itself. She said the only reason we survived was because we finally learned to care about each other more than we cared about profit." Turned back to face the room. "The Galactic Council thinks we are foolish. They think we are too young and too weak to matter. Maybe they are right. But I would rather be foolish and honorable than wise and cruel. I say we help the—" "Even if it bankrupts us?" someone asked. "Yes," said simply, "even then." The vote was not unanimous, but it did not need to be. Humanity would attempt the impossible. Within hours, every nation on Earth began mobilizing. Factories switched to producing equipment for something called Operation Daybreak. Scientists from every university were recruited to work on the problem. The entire space fleet began preparations for deployment. The news spread across Earth within a day. Reactions were mixed. Some people celebrated, others protested. There were riots in 3 major cities. The economy immediately began to contract as resources were diverted to the mission. In the weeks that followed, Jinwoo watched as humanity transformed itself. Volunteers signed up to crew the mission ships. Engineers worked 20-hour days designing equipment that had never been built before. Physicists led a team of 800 scientists searching for evidence to support his theory. Engineer called Jinwoo to her laboratory one night. She looked like she had not slept in days. "I have been designing something," she said. She showed him plans for a network of ships that could work together like a single massive computer. "If is right, if something is draining the star, we will need to attack it simultaneously from multiple points. These ships could coordinate perfectly using quantum entanglement." "How many ships?" Jinwoo asked. 17, said. Each one would need a crew willing to link their minds together through quantum computers. It has never been done before. We do not know what it would do to the human brain. Jinwoo looked at the designs. You are talking about people volunteering to have their minds merged together. Yes, said, it might be permanent, they might never be fully separate again. She paused. I am volunteering to be one of them, will you? Jinwoo thought about the 50,000 people on the New Dawn. He thought about Ambassador and her 3 billion people watching their son die. He thought about what humanity was supposed to be. Yes, he said, I will. Meanwhile, the rest of the galaxy watched with a mixture of pity and curiosity. Human trade agreements began to fail as Earth's economy weakened. Other species started taking advantage, seizing disputed territories and imposing harsh trade terms. The collective offered to help humanity by taking over the mission in exchange for control of several human colonies. Earth refused every offer. Prime Representative gave a speech that was broadcast across the entire planet. Some say we are being foolish, she told billions of watching humans. Some say we should abandon this mission and save ourselves. But I ask you this, what kind of species would we be if we forgot those who helped us? What kind of future do we want for our children? One where we calculate profit before compassion, or one where we stand by our friends no matter the cost? The speech changed something. The protests stopped. People began rationing voluntarily. Retired veterans returned to service. The economy suffered, but humanity held together. In orbit around Earth, 17 ships began to take shape. They were unlike anything humanity had ever built. Each one was designed to be part of a greater whole, a distributed consciousness that could perform calculations impossible for any single computer. Ambassador sent a private message to Jinwoo. Your people are suffering because of us. I cannot bear this. Jinwoo's reply was simple. You saved us when we had no hope. Now we do the same for you. This is what it means to be human. 5 years suddenly seemed like very little time. The system looked beautiful and terrible at the same time. Captain Jinwoo stood on the bridge of his ship, the Eternal Dawn, and watched the dying star through the viewport. It pulsed with sick light, flickering between yellow and deep red like a wounded animal trying to breathe. 30 human ships had arrived 3 months ago. They had deployed thousands of sensor devices around the star, each one collecting data every microsecond. Physicist was somewhere below in the science bay, buried in numbers and energy readings, looking for proof of his theory. So far, they had found nothing. Captain, said his second officer, engineer is requesting your presence in the main sensor array. Jinwoo made his way through the ship. The Eternal Dawn was the largest vessel humanity had ever built, and it still felt too small for the mission ahead. Everywhere he looked, crew members were working. No one had taken a full rest period in weeks. Everyone knew the clock was ticking. The sensor array room was filled with holographic displays. Engineer stood in the middle of it all, her face illuminated by blue light. She looked older than she had 3 months ago. They all did. Captain, she said without looking away from her screens, we have deployed 3,847 sensor buoys. We are collecting more data than any scientific mission in history. Do you know what we have found? Nothing, Jinwoo said quietly. Nothing, confirmed. Her voice was flat. No evidence of energy drainage, no subspace anomalies, no technology of any kind, just a star that is dying for no reason. Jinwoo wanted to say something encouraging, but he could not find the words. Back on Earth, the economy was collapsing. Food riots had broken out in 2 cities. 3 colonies had declared independence because they felt abandoned. And here they were, spending billions of dollars to stare at a star that refused to give up its secrets. Keep looking, was all he could say. That night, Jinwoo could not sleep. He walked through the ship's corridors and found himself in the observation deck. He was surprised to find Ambassador there, standing alone and looking at her dying son. Ambassador, Jinwoo said, I did not expect to find you here." "I come here every night," replied. Her crystalline body caught the starlight and scattered it into rainbows on the walls. "I watch my son die a little more each day." Jinwoo stood beside her. For a long time, neither of them spoke. "Your people are suffering because of us," finally said. "I have been reading your news broadcasts, riots, starvation, economic collapse, and for what? We are no closer to a solution than we were 3 months ago." "We will find an answer," Jinwoo said, but even he could hear the doubt in his voice. Captain turned to face him. "Let me tell you something about my father. When he saved your colony ship, many criticized him. They said he had wasted resources on a species that could not repay the debt. They said humans were too primitive to matter." "What did he say?" Jinwoo asked. "He said that kindness should not require payment, that helping someone should not need justification." His voice became softer. "But he was wrong about one thing. He thought your people would forget us after a generation or two. He thought gratitude was temporary. He would be amazed to see what you are doing for us now." "We never forget," Jinwoo said. "I know," replied. "That is what frightens me. You are destroying yourselves to repay a debt we never expected you to remember." Before Jinwoo could respond, his communicator beeped urgently. It was physicist, and he sounded excited. "Captain, get down to the science bay immediately. I found something." Jinwoo ran. When he arrived, was surrounded by holographic displays showing incomprehensible equations. The physicist's hair was messy and his eyes were red from lack of sleep, but he was smiling. "I found it," said. "Or rather, I found what I was not looking for." "Explain," Jinwoo said. Pulled up a display showing the star's energy output. "We have been looking for evidence of energy being drained away. But that is not what is happening. The energy is not going away. It is going somewhere else." "That is the same thing," Jinwoo said, confused. "No, it is not." Was talking fast now, the way he did when he was excited. "If the energy was being destroyed, we would see certain signatures in the radiation patterns. But the energy is being redirected, siphoned away through microscopic rifts in spacetime itself." Engineer had arrived and was studying the data. "Subspace tunnels." "Exactly," said. "Someone or something has created tiny holes in the fabric of space, right at the star's core. The holes are so small that normal sensors cannot detect them, but when I filtered the data for quantum fluctuations," he pulled up another display. "There, and there, and there. 17 points where spacetime is being punctured." Jinwoo felt his heart beating faster. "Can we close these holes?" "Maybe," said. "But it would require perfect quantum detonations at all 17 points simultaneously. If even one detonation is off by a single millisecond, the resulting cascade could turn the star into a supernova." "How simultaneously?" asked. "Within 0.000000001 seconds," said. "No single computer can coordinate that precisely, not even the best systems. The speed of light is too slow for real-time coordination across that distance." Was quiet for a moment, then she said, "The daybreak array." "What?" Jinwoo asked. "The 17 ships we are building," explained. "I designed them to work as one distributed consciousness using quantum entanglement. Quantum entanglement ignores the speed of light. If we can link 17 ships into a single mind, they could coordinate the detonations perfectly." Jinwoo felt both hope and dread. "You said linking human minds through quantum computers might be permanent, that the crews might never fully separate again." "Yes," said, "but it is the only way." News of the discovery spread quickly. Back on Earth, Prime Representative held another address. This time, her tone was different. "We have found a way to save she announced. "But it requires 17 ships crewed by volunteers who will sacrifice their individual consciousness to become something greater. We are asking for people willing to give up part of what makes them human to save an alien species." Jinwoo expected a shortage of volunteers. He was wrong. Within 24 hours, over 10,000 humans had applied to crew the Daybreak Array ships. Veterans who had retired came back. Civilians with no military training begged to be considered. People who had protested the mission now volunteered to join it. Jinwoo interviewed candidates personally. One was a young woman named Ai who had been working on the quantum computer designs. "Why do you want to volunteer?" Jinwoo asked her. "Because this is what humanity does," Ai replied simply. "We solve impossible problems. We help people who need us, and we do not calculate whether it is worth it. That is what makes us special." Jinwoo selected 17 crews. Each crew underwent months of training, preparing their minds for the quantum linking process. Engineer volunteered to integrate herself into the main computer system, essentially becoming part of the ship itself. But not everyone was happy. The collective sent a formal complaint to the Galactic Council. They claimed humans were being reckless and dangerous. "If they fail," the ambassador said, "they could destroy the entire system in a supernova. We should take over this operation." It was an obvious attempt to steal the credit if humans succeeded and blame them if they failed. Earth refused. Meanwhile, the 17 ships of the Daybreak Array were completed. They hung in space like a chain of artificial stars, each one containing technology that pushed the limits of human knowledge. Jinwoo stood on the bridge of the Eternal Dawn and looked at them. Somewhere on each ship, a crew was preparing to merge their consciousness with 16 other crews. They would become something humanity had never created before, a group mind with 17 bodies. Ambassador sent him a final message before the operation began. "Captain Jinwoo, my father would be proud to know that the humans he saved grew into people capable of this. Thank you. Whatever happens, thank you." Jinwoo watched the sun pulse its sick red light. Somewhere in its core, 17 tiny holes were draining away its life force, and 17 human ships were about to become one mind to close those holes. The countdown began. The crews began the quantum linking process. Jinwoo heard the first screams over the communication channels as human minds touched each other for the first time. Then the screams became something else, a harmony, a single voice speaking with 17 mouths. "We are ready," the Daybreak Array said. "We will save them." Earth was dying slowly. Not in the way a planet could physically die, but in the way hope dies when people watch their world crumble around them. Prime Representative stood in her office in Geneva and watched the latest reports with a heavy heart. Food rationing had been expanded again. Each citizen now received 60% of normal calories. Protests had turned into organized resistance in some cities. 3 major corporations had gone bankrupt. 2 colonies had stopped sending resources back to Earth. The economy had contracted by 40%, and it was still falling. And they still had 1 year to go. Fleet Commander Bora entered without knocking. She looked exhausted. "Ma'am, we have another problem. The collective is offering humanitarian aid." "What do they want in exchange?" asked, with though there was always a price. "Control of the Mars colonies and exclusive mining, rights in the asteroid belt for 50 years. Felt anger flash through her. There were vultures, circling and waiting for humanity to collapse. They had opposed the mission from the beginning. Now they wanted to profit from human suffering. "Tell them no," said. "Ma'am," Bora said carefully, "people are starving. Children are starving. Maybe we should." "No," repeated. "We started this mission. We will finish it. I will not sell humanity's future because we chose to help someone." Bora nodded and left. Alone again, pulled up news feeds from across Earth. What she saw hurt her heart. A mother in New Tokyo holding her crying child. Riot police in New fighting with citizens. A factory in New Mumbai that had been converted to produce ship components, now sitting empty because all resources were going to the Daybreak Array. Her assistant knocked on the door. "Ma'am, you have a scheduled address to the planet in 1 hour." Nodded, she had to find the right words. Earth needed hope, but she would not lie to them. 1 hour later, she stood before cameras that would broadcast her face to every screen on Earth. She looked tired. She knew she looked tired, but she would not hide it. "Citizens of Earth," she began, "I will not lie to you. The past 3 years have been the hardest in recent human history. We are hungry, we are poor. Many of you are angry, and you have the right to be. You did not choose this mission. Your leaders chose it for you." She paused. "Let me tell you why we made this choice. 40 years ago, when the new dawn was dying in deep space, they had a choice. They could continue their mission and let 50,000 humans die, or they could sacrifice years of work to save people they had never met. They chose to save us. Today, we face the same choice. We can abandon the to save ourselves, or we can finish what we started. I know what I want humanity to be. I want us to be the species that keeps its promises. I want us to be the people who help others even when it hurts." Leaned closer to the camera. "Some of you are angry at me. Some of you think I have betrayed you. I understand. But I ask you to think about the future. What kind of galaxy do you want to live in? One where species only help each other if there is profit, or one where kindness matters more than money?" They saved us because it was right. We are saving them for the same reason. That is who humanity is. That is who we have always been. We faced ice ages and plagues and wars, and we survived because we chose to help each other. Today, we make that same choice on a galactic scale. She straightened. In 1 year, the Daybreak Array will attempt to save the sun. 17 ships crewed by volunteers who sacrificed their individual consciousness to become something greater. They did this for strangers. They did this because they are human. I cannot promise you this will work. I cannot promise your suffering will end soon. But I can promise you this. History will remember us as the species that moved worlds for a friend. And that is worth more than all the wealth in the galaxy. The broadcast ended, sat down heavily, and waited for the reactions. They came within minutes. News networks analyzed every word. Some praised her, others called her a fool, but then something unexpected happened. A video went viral. It showed an old man in Beijing dividing his ration of food with his neighbor. "If we can sacrifice for aliens," he said to the camera, "we can sacrifice for each other." More videos followed. A factory in Detroit reopened, staffed entirely by volunteers. A community in Mumbai began sharing resources instead of hoarding them. Children in schools started rationing their own lunches to send extra food to space crews. The protests did not stop, but they changed. Instead of demanding the mission end, people demanded more efficiency. They wanted to help more. They wanted their sacrifices to matter. In orbit around Earth, the construction of the Daybreak Array reached its final phase. Engineer worked 20-hour days, living more inside the ship's computer systems than in her own body. She had already begun the integration process, slowly merging her consciousness with the quantum computers that would coordinate the 17 ships. Captain Jinwoo visited her in the medical bay where her body rested. Tubes and wires connected her to machines. Her eyes were closed, but he knew she could hear him. He said, "You do not have to do this. We can find another way." Her eyes opened. When she spoke, her voice came from the ship's speakers rather than her mouth. "There is no other way, Jinwoo, and I want to do this. I want to be the bridge that connects 17 crews into one mind. I want to be the reason we save 3 billion people." "You will never be fully human again," Jinwoo said. "I will be something better," replied. "I will be proof that humanity can transcend itself." Jinwoo left the medical bay feeling both proud and sad. Was right. There was no other way, but the price was so high. The 17 crews were being selected and trained. Each volunteer underwent psychological testing and physical preparation. They were told repeatedly what would happen. Their minds would be linked through quantum entanglement. They would become a single consciousness with 17 bodies. They would feel each other's thoughts and emotions. They would never be fully separate again. None of them. I was selected to command one of the ships. Jinwoo spoke with her before she entered the quantum linking chamber. "Are you afraid?" he asked. "Terrified," I admitted, "but also excited. Do you know what we are going to become? We will be the first distributed human consciousness. We will think faster than any single mind. We will be able to coordinate actions that would be impossible for individuals." "You will also lose yourself," Jinwoo said. "No," I smiled. "I will find 16 new selves. I will become we. That is not loss, that is expansion." Jinwoo watched as the 17 volunteers entered their linking chambers. The process took 3 days. For 3 days, the crews experienced each other's minds. Some cried, some laughed, some screamed, but none of them asked to stop. When they emerged, they were changed. They moved in perfect synchronization. When one spoke, the others mouthed the same words. They had become the Daybreak Array, a single mind with 17 bodies. "We are ready," they said together. "We are one, we will save them." Back in the system, Ambassador watched the human ships arrive. She had seen the news from Earth. She knew what humanity was sacrificing, and she felt ashamed. She sent a message to Prime Representative. "Please stop this. My people are not worth the destruction of yours." His reply came 12 hours later. "Ambassador, your father did not ask if saving humans was worth the cost. He just saved us. We are doing the same. This is not about worth. This is about who we choose to be." The sun had 1 year remaining. The 17 ships of the Daybreak Array positioned themselves in a perfect sphere around it. Inside each ship, a crew that was no longer fully individual prepared for the most precise operation in human history. They would have one chance. If they failed, they would trigger a supernova that would destroy everything in the system. If they succeeded, they would prove that humanity's greatest strength was not their technology or their weapons, but their refusal to abandon those who had shown them kindness. The countdown began. Earth held its breath. 3 billion looked up at their dying sun and dared to hope. And 17 human consciousnesses merged into one, prepared to do the impossible. The sun pulsed red against the black of space. Captain Jinwoo stood on the bridge of the eternal dawn and watched the 17 ships of the Daybreak Array move into their final positions. Each ship was now exactly where it needed to be, forming a perfect sphere around the dying star. Across the galaxy, trillions of beings watched. The event was being broadcast on every major network. Some watched with hope. Most watched expecting humanity's spectacular failure. A few watched with barely hidden satisfaction, waiting for the humans to destroy themselves so their assets could be claimed. Jinwoo activated his communication channel. "Daybreak Array, this is Captain Jinwoo. Final status check." The response came from 17 voices speaking as one, perfectly synchronized. "We are ready. All ships in position. Quantum linking is stable. We are one mind across 17 bodies. We are ready to save them." Engineer's voice, now part of the array's consciousness, added, "Calculations are complete. Margin of error is 0.000000001%. We have accounted for every variable. If physics works the way we think it does, this will succeed." "And if physics does not work the way we think?" Jinwoo asked. "Then we create a supernova that destroys the system," the array replied simply. "But we do not believe we will fail. We are humanity. We solve impossible problems." Physicist was in the science bay, monitoring every sensor. His calculations had led them here. 17 points in the star's corona where subspace rifts were siphoning energy into another dimension. 17 quantum detonations needed to happen within 0.000000001 seconds of each other to close those rifts without triggering a catastrophic cascade. "Beginning final countdown," Jinwoo announced. His voice carried across all channels, reaching Earth, and every station in the galaxy that was watching. 60 seconds. On Earth, Prime Representative stood in the command center surrounded by military leaders and government officials. Every screen showed different views of the operation. She had not slept in 2 days. None of them had. 45 seconds, Jinwoo's voice echoed through the room. Thought about the past 4 years. The sacrifices, the suffering, the families that had gone hungry, the economy that had collapsed, all for this moment. All for 3 billion aliens they had never met. In the system, Ambassador stood on her surface, looking up at the sky. Around her, 3 billion did the same. They had lived under a dying sun for 5 years. They had watched other species declare their situation hopeless. They had accepted their fate. Then humanity had arrived and refused to accept it. 30 seconds, Jinwoo announced. The Daybreak Array began the linking sequence. Inside each of the 17 ships, the crew's consciousnesses merged even more deeply. They became more than a distributed mind. They became a single organism made of quantum-entangled thoughts, capable of coordinating actions across vast distances with perfect synchronization. 15 seconds. Jinwoo could hear the arrays breathing. 17 bodies breathing as one. 17 hearts beating in perfect rhythm. It was beautiful and terrifying. 10 seconds. Every calculation had been checked 1,000 times. Every variable accounted for. Physicist had worked for 4 years to understand the subspace rifts. Engineer had given up her individual existence to become the mind that would coordinate the detonations. 17 crews had sacrificed their separation to become one consciousness. 5 seconds. On Earth, people gathered in public squares. In homes, in shelters, they watched screens and held each other. Some prayed, some wept. All of them hoped. 3, 2, 1, execute. 17 quantum weapons discharged simultaneously. To observers, it looked like 17 points of light appearing around the sun, each one impossibly bright. The weapons existed for only a fraction of a second, but in that fraction, they did something that should have been impossible. They closed 17 rifts in spacetime itself. For exactly 4.7 seconds, the sun's light stopped. Not dimmed, not flickered, stopped completely. The star went dark as if someone had turned off a switch. It was an event that violated every principle of stellar physics. Across the galaxy, astrophysicists watched in shock. Stars did not turn off. Stars could not turn off. But for 4.7 seconds, the sun was dark. Then it reignited. But this time the light was different, stronger, steadier. The sick red pulse was gone. The star burned with clean, yellow light. Its core had stabilized. The subspace rifts were closed. The energy drain had stopped. The sun was healing. On the bridge of the eternal dawn, Jinwoo stared at the readings in disbelief. Physicist, confirm the data. Confirmed, his voice was shaking. The rifts are closed, the star is stabilizing. Captain, we did it. We actually did it. Jinwoo activated the communication channel to the Daybreak Array. Array, status report. The response came, but it was different now. The 17 voices no longer spoke in perfect unison. There were slight delays, variations in tone. We are here. The quantum linking has left permanent effects. We will always feel each other's thoughts. We will never be fully separate again, but we are alive, and the star is saved. Engineer's voice added, now distinct from the others. The integration was successful. The 17 crews are permanently connected, but they retain their individual identities. They are like a family that can hear each other's thoughts. They will need time to adjust, but they will be okay. Jinwoo felt relief flood through him. You did the impossible, all of you, thank you. On Earth, the command center erupted in celebration. Prime Representative found herself crying for the first time in years. Around her, hardened military officers embraced each other. They had done it. Humanity had moved a world to save 3 billion lives. In the 3 billion crystalline beings looked up at their sun and saw it shine with steady, healthy light for the first time in 5 years. Across the planet, people wept, sang, and celebrated. Ambassador stood among them, watching the sun and thinking about the species that had saved them. But something else was happening, something no one had expected. Physicist was analyzing the data from the closed rifts when he noticed something strange. The subspace tunnels had not been empty. In the fraction of a second before they collapsed, the sensors had detected something on the other side. Technology, massive amounts of it, and more disturbing, intention. Captain said slowly, "I need to show you something." Jinwoo reviewed the data and felt his blood run cold. The rifts had not been natural. They had not even been random technology. They had been deliberate. Someone or something had created those rifts to drain the sun. It had been a test, an experiment, an invasion probe. Jinwoo immediately contacted Earth and the Galactic Council. Within hours, an emergency session was called. This time, when Jinwoo stood before the council, no one was laughing. The threat to the sun was not a natural phenomenon, Jinwoo explained. It was a weapon. Someone from outside our galaxy created subspace rifts to drain a star's energy. We believe they were testing our defenses, testing to see if anyone in this galaxy could stop them. The chamber erupted in panic. Representatives from 1,000 species began shouting. The collective's ambassador demanded to know why humans had not discovered this earlier. The Commonwealth suggested evacuating border systems immediately. Ambassador stood and spoke, her voice cutting through the chaos. "Representatives, please listen. 5 years ago, my people faced extinction. Every major civilization examined our problem and declared it impossible to solve. All of you gave us sympathy and told us to accept our fate." She turned to look at Jinwoo. Only humanity refused to accept the impossible. They bankrupted themselves. They sacrificed their economy. They permanently altered 17 of their people's minds. And in doing so, they did not just save my species. They stopped an extragalactic invasion before it began. The chamber fell silent. "The entity that created those rifts was testing us," continued. "If the sun had died, they would have known our galaxy was defenseless. They would have come in force. But humanity closed those rifts. Humanity proved we can fight back. Humanity saved us all." Prime Representative, attending via hologram, spoke next. "Ambassador is correct. This was not just about saving though we did not know it at the time, this was about proving that our galaxy will not submit easily, that we have species willing to make impossible sacrifices to protect each other." She paused. "For 4 years, other civilizations mocked us. You called us foolish. You exploited our economic weakness. You waited for us to fail so you could claim our resources. But we did not fail. We succeeded. And in doing so, we protected all of you." The ambassador started to speak but cut him off. "No, you will listen now. Humanity remembers who helped us and who tried to exploit us. They saved us 40 years ago, and we moved worlds to repay that kindness. The rest of you tried to profit from our sacrifice." She leaned forward. "Let this be a lesson to every species in this council. Humanity judges civilizations not by their power or their wealth, but by their willingness to help others. The past that test 40 years ago. Today, we honored that debt. In the future, we will remember who stood with us and who stood against us." The broadcast ended. Across the galaxy, species that had mocked humanity's mission suddenly understood what they were dealing with. This was a species that would bankrupt itself to save strangers, that would permanently alter their people's minds to help a friend, that would move worlds to repay a debt. This was a species you wanted as an ally and feared as an enemy. In the weeks that followed, something changed in the galaxy. They proposed a formal alliance with humanity, offering to share their advanced technology. Other species, seeing this, rushed to improve their relationships with Earth. Trade agreements that had been canceled were reinstated with better terms. Disputed territories were returned. The economic pressure on humanity began to ease. But humanity did not forget. They remembered who had helped and who had tried to exploit them. 1 month after the mission's success, Captain Jinwoo stood on the observation deck of the Eternal Dawn with Ambassador. They watched the sun, now burning with steady, healthy light. "Your father saved 50,000 of my people," Jinwoo said. "We saved 3 billion of yours. The debt is paid." "The debt is paid," agreed, "but the friendship is forever." She turned to look at him. "Captain Jinwoo, my people have a saying, judge a species not by their strength in victory but by their compassion in power. You had every right to abandon us. You had every practical reason to save yourselves, but you did not. That is true strength." Jinwoo smiled. "We are humanity, we never forget a favor, and when we repay our debts we do not calculate cost, we just do what is right." "Even if it means moving worlds?" asked. "Especially if it means moving worlds," Jinwoo replied. Above them, the sun shone bright and steady, a monument to the power of gratitude and the strength of compassion. And across the galaxy, every species now understood a simple truth. Humanity never forgets a favor, and their payback can move worlds.